seek sanction against it.
Now here's another question I get, Sohelia. How old does the child have to be to testify or to pick where he or she wants to live? I mean, those come up all the time. I can't tell you how many times somebody will call me and say, hey, my kid wants to live with me. Let's go to court. How old do they have to be before they can decide? What do you tell that person?
Seek sanction against it.
Now here's another question I get, Sohelia. How old does the child have to be to testify or to pick where he or she wants to live? I mean, those come up all the time. I can't tell you how many times somebody will call me and say, hey, my kid wants to live with me. Let's go to court. How old do they have to be before they can decide? What do you tell that person?
Family code allows children to have a voice in court at the age of 14. But the age of 14, it's not enough, because we do have mature 12s, we have immature 15. So yes, the age is 14, but all other elements of maturity of the child has to be examined before the child can have a voice. However, there is another vessel that children can talk to the court, and that is through minors counsel. Minors counsel is an attorney like me that gets appointed by the judge from the list the judge has, or anyway, for many reasons. And they go talk to the children. They go talk to the school. They go talk to the parents. They go to the parents' home. They look at their life situation, the schooling, the hospitals, the doctors, everything. Then talks to the kids. Why do you want to live with one parent? Why do you want to live with your mom? Why is it that, what happens when you go to your dad? Why is it you don't want to spend time with your dad? And then, the child is not 14. He's not coming to court to talk, but the minors counsel will report to the court as to her findings. What I found, what I saw. She had a better home. She had a better bed. She didn't want to go because the new wife was not feeding her. I mean, again, bottom line, best interest of the children. So the 14.
What about, how do judges feel about making or having a minor testify in their court? I get, in even in juvenile court, where it, happens a lot, and especially in family law court, I get what I think are strange looks from judges when I say, oh yeah, I want to bring in the 10-year-old and put him up on the stand.
Even adults are intimidated by coming to court, let alone testifying. I'm an attorney. I stand before the judge 24/7. I was called in as a witness, and I had to go in that little box and testify. And it was uncomfortable for me. And I'm there 24/7. So imagining someone who's not in court all the time, who does not know the legal system, who's basically afraid of it, to be there, let alone a child. It's traumatic. So I'm sure the judges realize it, and I know the judges realize it. They do not even want the kids in the courtroom, let alone testifying. This is one of the reasons they appoint minors counsel.
Mm-hmm. Someone told me this, And I want to ask you as an expert, is this true? Let's say you and I are opposing or counsel on a case. You have the mom, I have the dad, and the judge says, I'm going to appoint Mr. So and so or Miss So and so as minors counsel. Do you have the right to veto that by a 170.6 type of motion?
As far as the minors counsel is,
Mhm.
of course you do.
How many times can you do that? Once, twice, as many times as possible?
You can do it once as a matter of right, and second time you have to ask the court. The same thing goes for judges. Look, we can tell the judges, Judge, this time around I don't want you, and then we do what's called prejudice. We can, that 170.6, it's affidavit of prejudice. We're just saying, Judge, you're a great judge, but in this case I don't want you.
So it applies to minors counsel as well.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that used? I don't think I've ever seen it.
I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. Is it a right? Yes. No. But the 170.6 against minors counsel, it goes through the same judge who appointed you. So what's the chance?
Right. Okay.
That's probably why we don't see it.
All right. Now, in every custody and visitation hearing, I was told that there is a requirement that the parties go to mediation. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
And in some counties, the last time I looked at the code, the counties were called experimental counties, where the mediator writes a report and recommendation and gives it to the judge.
And also comes to court and testifies.
Right, right.
Which defeats the meaning of the mediation.
So, I've done cases in different counties, and sometimes they have different rules about that. What rule do they use here in Los Angeles County?
Los Angeles County, no report, no testimony. Mediation is mediation confidential with the hope of settlement. And I think that's how it should be.
So if the parties don't agree at mediation, they have to go see the judge upstairs. The mediator doesn't come, doesn't give a report. It's just, hey, judge, they didn't settle. You got to make the decision.
Exactly. Remember, when mediation comes to play, when one party has filed document seeking either more custody or legal custody, seeking something relevant to custody, the mediator will talk to the parties and would tell the parties, I sit as a mediator for the court. So I tell you what I do, okay? I tell them, look, this is what the law says. This is how we have the fact. If we apply this fact to this law, this is the outcome of it. So do you want to come to some sort of agreement somewhere in the happy medium in here? Because of this, look, you want the kid to go to your home, but you're 70 miles away. How are you going to get this kid to school at 8 o'clock in the morning? It's not good for your kid. I mean, I sit down and tell them.
Right.
No, I let the judge decide.
As a mediator and, having done this for many years, what do you think are the key things? Give me 3 hot tips that a parent or father should remember or do or implement when they go to mediation for custody and visitation.
The very first thing I tell my client is, if your husband or your wife was not a good spouse, does not mean he or she is not a good father or mother. Remember that. That person may have done you wrong, but that's not how it is towards your child. So remember that. Don't apply your anger to that. That's number 1. Number 2, I say, look what's good for your child, not what's good for you or good for him. or the other side. Look to see what's good for your child. Is it good for your child not to see her father? Is it good for your child not to see his mother? Not to have any weekend with the other parent? Just put yourself in the other parent's shoes. Is it the right thing for your
And what if
child?
and what if they tell you, yes, that rat bastard cheated on me. He should never be around the child. What do you say to that?
That I would say again, he was a bad spouse, not a bad father. Let's focus on rule number one. What has he done wrong to your child? Has he been beating your child, ignoring, not meeting your child's needs? What? Tell me things that he's done wrong to your child. Just because he's a bad spouse does not necessarily make him a bad father. Well,
That's
there are
actually
some.
that's actually a very good point. That you know, I've thought of it, but it's never really crystallized in my mind until the way that you just said it. You know, the guy could be the worst, spouse in the world, but most guys, and I'm not going to say all, but most guys, they love their kids.
Yes,
You know, they would never do anything to their kids. The wife, probably, but the kids, never.
exactly. We got to differentiate. We have to differentiate because we want to raise a healthy child. A healthy child needs both parents. Just because one parent was a bad spouse doesn't make that parent a bad parent. We really need to focus on that. And the child, at the end of the day, will. I had a case, and the case was father was an absent father, a horrible father, and I talked to a child therapist, and I said, "Look, I need to know what kind of advice I give my client. If the father is in this kid's life, this kid is going to get hurt. If the father never comes to this kid's life, this kid is going to get hurt.
Mm.
No matter how you slice it." The child therapist said, you have to pick between bad and worse. Pick the bad and run with it. Having a bad parent in a child's life is much better than having no parent in child's life.
Mm.
So I've been chewing on this for the last 20 years. I swear it's exactly 20 years today. Okay. So I'm saying, okay, if I have to keep a bad parent in a kid's life, I'll make sure I keep him in his life in a safe fashion for this child. Okay. Short, public places, depending on why this father is bad. Okay. But some connection. I learned that having the parent in kid's life is better than not having the parent at all.